So I'm going to have a really unpopular opinion. I don't think AI writing is so bad. All right, so sorry for that, but I always seem to get thrown stuff at when I say that. I think people online get thrown stuff at that when they say AI writing is okay. But let me talk about that today, because there's three things that I think AI does really well that'll help. It actually is going to help beginning writers. Now, the first one is the biggest one, and after this one, you could probably even just be done with the video if you want. But the biggest one is going to help you tell your stories. I think one of the hardest parts for me that I really enjoyed AI was it helped me create my first book. Now, before again, you start throwing tomatoes and stuff at me, let me just tell you, it's a nonfiction book that I've been working on, and it was really nice. It took me about 20 hours, so it wasn't like I just typed in a prompt and I got the book out the next time. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a couple minutes. But the interesting thing is I was able to get this book out, and I've given it to other people to read, and they've really found it powerful. And I think that's important. So AI is going to help people take ideas from their brains and distribute them to the masses. Now, are all those ideas great? No. So one of the things so I hate to admit this, but back in the day, a friend of mine is a writer and a director and a producer, and we were just talking about movie ideas, and I said, I could be your movie guy. I got all these great ideas in my mind. And it didn't occur to me at the time that the hard part is not the ideas. And so that's why when you go to California and every barista, every service worker, every waitress, waiter has a screenplay idea, it's just an idea. The hard part is taking that idea and creating a finished product with that. And I learned about that the hard way because, there's been people who message me right now and say, hey, I have this great idea. I don't want to tell anybody about it. And they don't ever create the idea because they're so worried that someone else is going to steal their idea. Believe it or not, most of the ideas have been created in some form or fashion. There's no original thought. I mean, the other part that I always think funny is people are like, well, AI is going to steal my idea. So the interesting thing about AI is it works a lot like humans do. So we're inspired by stuff, like when I've seen Star Wars, that has inspired me to a lot of different science fiction type operas that I want to try to write myself. And that's the inspiration for me. So probably part of my writing is going to be influenced by that, much like AI. But the bad part about AI is it's a lot more precise than what we draw out of it from watching the movie and stuff like that. Now, I know I got a little sidetracked with that, but AI is going to really help you tell your stories. And here's the reason why, is because it's going to make you have to come out with the full-fleshed idea. It's going to make you work that through that idea. Because if you just say, hey, I want you to write a story about my life, guess what? Unless you're a really famous person, it's not going to know who you are or what you are. The nice thing about this particular book I wrote was it really made me flesh out the ideas about how and what I wanted to say. And so I think that's very important, that when you use AI, what you're using AI for is for support. You're using it as a tool. It does not replace my voice. It does not replace who I am as a writer and my stories. What it does do is it asks me important questions. What I normally do when I wrote this particular book is I asked Claude to say, okay, this is what I want this chapter to be about. What questions you need me to answer for you to help us get this chapter together. And so each of those, those questions took me over at least 2 hours for each of the different chapters. Now, there's only 5 chapters in this particular book. It's a really short one. But it took me over 2 hours to go through and write what I wanted to. And that's not even me editing what it wrote back to me, because there's several times when it wrote the stuff out, I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like me at all. Or I don't really like this particular word that you used or something like that. And I would go through and manually change that. So as you go through this, so as you go through using AI, see it as a tool, see it as a way to get your idea from your head onto the page. And like I said, you're going to really have to work at it. And I think that's the problem. I think a lot of people who are so against AI writing don't understand, at least in terms of how I approach AI writing. And now you can approach it however you want. But when I do it, I'm really about how do I take my ideas out of my head and get them onto the page. And like I said, AI is great for rough drafts. It gets that idea exactly that. So I got my book done. I also got 5 screenwriting ideas outlined. That was awesome. And again, I used AI software, Storywork. I'll link them in the description. I don't have an affiliate link. I do know the guy who wrote it. I don't get a kickback or anything like that. But the amazing thing is I had these 5 ideas kicking around in my head and I could never get them out. And Storyworks, what it does, it asks you again, a series of questions. What do you want about this? What's your main character about? What's about this? And it helps them like, well, tell me what some options I could do for character arcs. And it gave me some options and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And if I didn't like any, I said, give me some more. And so what it really did, though, is, again, taking that idea out of my head and help me put it on the page. And I think what we're going to see with AI writing, the good part of this, and like I said, not every idea that comes out of our minds is going to be a full fleshed out idea that we need to have. And we see that now in the current marketplace. With AI, we're just going to see it 1,000 times more. And it's going to be harder to be more discerning about how to find stuff. I'm not saying AI writing, there's no wrongs with it. But I think the way we villainize it is not helpful, because I think for a lot of folks, now we're going to be able to actually hear their stories. Which leads me into number 2 reason why beginning writers should use AI. That one is learning more about the craft. You know, one of the fun things I have done since I've been using AI has been saying, hey, I want to learn more about characters. Hey, I want to learn more about what is a treatment. Hey, I want to learn about, X, Y, or Z. And I can put in there and I can say, give me some sources. And what I don't do is say, tell me what this means. What I say is find me 5 to 10 sources that I can go out and look at, YouTube videos, articles, books, and just read them and absorb them. And then if I have questions, I can come back to the AI and say, okay, this is how I'm understanding it. Can you give me some examples of either why this is the case or why this is not the case? And so this is really helpful for me because I don't have a lot of extra money to kick around to buy a course. And not to say all the courses aren't great. I've spent $1,600 on a course that I love, but the bad part is I've never gotten through it because the course is so long. But what this does do for me is it gives me the information so I can go out and study these things and get better at it. And I like that. I like to be able to craft my stuff. I like to understand what's going on. And that might just be me, but I think there's a lot more writers out there to say, hey, what are some references, some free references I can go out there and look at and get to know some more knowledge and stuff like that. I also, if I'm going to write a particular type of novel or book or script, I can say, hey, give me some other ones so I can go through and read through them, and so that I understand sort of what happens in that particular genre. Now, the third one's going to seem really, really weird because using AI is actually going to help you create your own unique voice. And you're like, Paul, that can't be the case because AI is so dry. AI has its own unique voice, and you're gonna notice that when you write. Because like I said, I've used AI before to create scenes or to create, different parts of my book or parts of my screenplay. And I'm like, yeah, you can definitely tell that's AI. That's not me. That's not how this character, as I envision them, should be talking or should be acting. And so I go back and change that because that's not who I see the character to be. Again, you have to realize when you type stuff into the AI, it's going to give you a generic thing. And if you have to say, okay, how am I going to make this different? The AI basically gives you a starting point. I think a lot of people in this day and age don't know where to start. And AI gives you that point to start with. And then you can start feeling out what is your unique angle when it comes to this. Do you like writing short sentences? Is that your style? Do you like having do your villains have long diatribes or long monologues or something like that? Do you like a particular set of words? Do you like to format it a particular way? Stuff like that. I mean, that is going to be your unique voice. What words do you use? What kind of things do you are important to you when you describe a character or a setting or a scene? And that's going to become your unique voice. And again, AI will give you a starting point, and then it's up to you to figure out what to do with that after that. And if you leave it as it is, you can do that, but the writing is really not going to be reflective of who you are. And I don't know about you. When I write for fun. I write, I'm not, if I sell something, great. That's awesome. If I don't, I've gotten it out of my head. And like I said, this book that I'm writing, if you want a copy, I'll put a description, or I'll put it in the description below. Once it's done, I'm still working on it. But I'm not selling that for like millions of dollars. And that's not the point of it. The point of it was to help people in a particular way. And so that's why I wrote that particular book. But my screenplays, you know, I'm just excited to get them out, because one day I'm going to be able to make those screenplays using some of the software that's coming out for image generation. And that's going to be great, because then I can watch what I made. And I think at the end of the day, that's the neat thing. I get to watch what I did. Or I get to create, and if someone else likes it, wonderful, awesome, that's great. But that's something that I like to do. And I know a lot of people get trashed because, oh, you're just doing AI writing because you want it to get out there and to make a lot of money. I don't. I do this for fun. And I support the products that I like. Like I said, I talked about Storyworks before. I like that particular product. That's the only sponsored video I've done on the channel so far, has been that. And the reason why is because it helped me with my writing. It helped me create those 5 extra outlines for scripts that I could do. So what do you think? You're going to try some AI writing? If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Again, so I know right now people are really dunking on AI writing, but I think if we see it as the tool it is, so that we're not having AI write for us, but we're having AI write with us, we're going to see a lot more works of art. We're going to see a lot more stories out there, because right now I think some of the gatekeeping that's going on isn't not just the people out there, but it's ourselves. We're gatekeeping ourselves, saying no one's going to read this. No one wants to know my story. I don't even know where to begin. You have a tool right now that's going to allow you to tell your story. And the cool thing is the only person that's stopping you right now is you. So will you take the time today and write your story? Because somebody needs to hear it. Until the next video, live well and write well.